welcome to Abu Dhabi. It is very early in the morning. Megan Olivi alongside Brett Okamoto. Brett, this was kind of a weird night. I'm just going to say that.
Oh?
There were some things that happened that were strange. But I want to start on the positives. The main event didn't last long, but man, if you thought this fight was going to end via strikes, you probably assumed that meant Alexander Volkanovski would get his hand raised. But, well, here it was, Islam. What did you think of the performance?
Yep, not anymore. And Islam made a point of that. You know, I know you talked to him, and I just talked to him very briefly. I mean, obviously, it's just chaos back here. He comes back here with his crew, all kinds of media wanting to pull him in a million different directions. And one of the things that I knew that he really wanted to tell me, like I remember back in Australia in February, a big thing he wanted to tell me is, hey, rank me number one pound for pound. I'm the number one pound for pound guy. You know, today he wanted to be like, hey, I got it in with my striking. I am not just a grappler.
Yep.
I am not, and he didn't say this, but he's not just a, like, Habib was known as, like, you know, I even was joking with Javier Mendez. I was like, oh, it was always father's plan. It was always father's plan. Now it's Javier Mendez and the kickboxing plan, you know, and he was like, absolutely not. But it's true. I mean, there's not a way to go about fighting Islam Makhachev. You can't assume that, you know, if you can defend his takedowns, you can beat him on the feet because he's knocking guys out.
Right. No, it was so impressive. And he does everything in such a quiet fashion that sometimes you forget, like, what an animal he is inside the octagon. Who do you want to see him fight next?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know what I told him? I was like, I think that you should weigh in as the backup for the 170 fight in December, just for a little drama, you know, a little bit of fun. Who knows? I mean, we saw two fights happen on 10 days' notice, you know, so might as well go ahead and go to Vegas and weigh in at 170 pounds. Beyond that, they can't go wrong with either Charles or Justin. I mean, you want to talk about deserving title challengers? They're both deserving. They're both so deserving. I think a lot of people would want to see Justin just because it's a different matchup. I have a hard time saying, well, it can't be Charles because I don't want to see a guy lose an opportunity because of a facial cut. So I guess if it's me, just deserving, Charles does have a win over Justin. I would say Charles, but I don't think they can go wrong with either one of those. It's going to be one of them, right?
I agree, and that was Islam's answer to me anyway, those two names. And he said, well, first I'll fight Charles, and then I'll fight Gaethje. Gaethje will wait for me. Okay, let's talk about the co-main event. This one was interesting because all three judges, I believe, had it 10-8 for Khamzat in that first round. I mean, we knew that this would be a tough task for Kamaru because of the size difference, because of the 10 days notice. There were a lot of things. But really, when you stand back and you see what Khamzat was able to do to a former champion, I mean, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, that first round was just like, my gosh, man. It's just like, I was starting to, I mean, I have like writing responsibilities on the night, and so I'm trying to kind of write before the fight's even over. And I was saying, after watching what happened, what took place in that first round, you're like, man, this guy could have fought for a championship 3 years ago. It's just like let's just get to it already. I mean, right. we know what the guy's ceiling is, we know what his potential is, but then, you know, Kamaru showed that he is Kamaru Usman. He has a lot of experience, and then you start wondering about Khamzat's gas tank a little bit again, but he is ready for a championship fight. I want to see him in a championship fight. Everybody knows he's going to be a big favorite against Sean Strickland. We'll see what happens. Israel Adesanya was a big favorite against Sean Strickland, so that's why we let the fights play out. But the biggest question surrounding Khamzat is just when, where can he fight? Can he be active? You know, I mean, the guy came into the UFC with this notorious thing like, oh, I'm going to fight every day. Right. And then it's like, where you been? You know, and why can't we see him fight? So I think that there's some very, very big unanswered questions there. I know that his team and I think the UFC is going to be looking at that and trying to get to a situation in which he can be active, because right now it seems to be the only thing standing in his way is being active.
No, that's a great point. And I just want to say, I know we're only talking main and co-main here, but there's got to be so much credit to those four athletes on top of this card. Not just the guys who stepped in on short notice in Volkanovski and Kamaru Usman, but the guys who said yes to also taking on a new challenge in a short notice position. It's a difficult thing to do, and I don't know if that got lost in the messaging as well, that, you know, Khamzat and Islam had to still say yes and prepare for virtual unknowns.
Absolutely.
You know? And so that's what makes this sport so great.
I remember one time, I mean, everybody remembers the infamous John Jones situation where he wouldn't take the fight against Chael Sonnen and they canceled the whole event. The one that comes to my mind is Demetrius Johnson had, and I don't remember what the fight was, but the point he made is that I'm not fighting in smokers anymore, guys. Like, this is not me showing up on a Thursday night at a bar and just like, who's my opponent? You know, like, I work my whole life to do this. That belt means something. I'm not just going to put it up on 10 days notice against somebody. And I listened to Demetrius Johnson say that, and I was like, that's right, DJ. You know, I completely agree with that. But that's not the same mentality that everybody takes. And so, yes, when these guys are willing to take those risks, you do want to give them a whole lot of credit, and they both did so tonight.
Yeah, well, Abu Dhabi, we are out of here in a couple of hours, and then we're on to New York City for UFC
to the next one,
which is going to also be bananas. So we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.
See you there.